And Tom, before I bring it over to you, I just like to give a couple of minutes. Everybody, thank you very much for joining 180 Markets, where what we try to do on these chats, these 180 Markets off the charts, is to really bring out to you those companies that maybe aren't quite so well known, quite so well followed in the marketplace, and to really bring their stories to life. And before we discuss legacy, obviously the overall markets, we can't get around the fact that there is a lot of red on the screens. There is a lot of red, weakness, and frankly, it can get very frustrating. But my partner, Sean, and I, we've been professional investors our entire lives, and we know now is the time where you do need to roll up your sleeves because there is tremendous value around, and that's why we're excited to be joined by Legacy today. But one more final note that I'm sure a lot of investors will have interest in, what are we seeing here technically? A lot of our investors have a lot of cash on the sidelines. They are certainly cashed up. They are nervous and waiting for opportunities. But I think that the key distinction between now and 2008 and 2009, back then, a lot of investors were very overextended. There were a lot of margin calls. That is not at all what we are seeing right now. As I said, we are seeing nervousness, people concerned with CPI numbers. Tomorrow morning in the US, they're coming around. The whisper numbers are as high as 10%, even though the print number should be 8.5%. But the point is, now is the time to do that work. And with that, Thomas, I'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit about Legacy.
Thanks, Greg. So Legacy Metals, we're a New South Wales focused gold, copper, and base metals exploration company. So Tom and I are essentially the two founders of the company. We started this back in 2017 as a small private explorer. And we recently took it to a listing on the ASX September last year under the ticker LGM. That's the structure. That's who we are. We raised $6 million, and so we're well funded, to get us through, I guess, these market times and really give our shareholders some great discovery exposure. So we're sort of fortunate in that position that we've got cash in bank, and some really good drill targets ahead of us. I'll sort of maybe. It's a pretty brief introduction to Legacy, and I thought that maybe we'll be jumping forward and jumping back a bit. But Tom, do you just want to maybe talk about where you are at the moment at Bullura, and that way you can leave you get back to the prospecting out there?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Good to be with you today, Greg. So I'm out here at Bullura. Currently, we're completing a soil sampling campaign out here. The project is a very large low sulfidation system, and so one of the challenges with that is really identifying the best targets within this highly prospective area. We've got gold in the Mimal vein that strikes for almost 2.5 k's, and the actual gold anomalous zone is almost 8 k's squared. So we're excited to be out here. We're currently mapping some of the alteration zone and the high priority gold targets here, and with a view to be testing these with the drill rig later this year and then going into next year. So it's great to be out here, and the weather's been kind to me, so good to be out in the field.
Great. And then Chris, maybe to back up for a second, can you just tell people a bit more about that obviously you're in the world-class Lachlan Fold Belt. Maybe just give a little bit of background on the company and the land holdings.
Yeah, sure. So we've got 6 100% owned tenements, all in New South Wales. And I'll bring up just a slide that just shows that tenement map so that people have the reference there. We've got a very diverse range of mineral systems that we're exploring for. So we've got the low sulfidation epithermal that Tom talked about. We've also got a Cobar type deposit, Cobar type target as well. So that's right in the heart of the Cobar mining district. And if the people at the webinar can see that screen that I've shared.
Looks great.
We've got a tenement to the north of that, Mulholland, and that really hugs the Sky Metals fantastic Dorradilla tin prospect. So a battery metals focused tenement up there. And then as we move down towards the central New South Wales, we've got our porphyry target at Rocklea, and that's we'll go into a bit of detail, particularly around Cobar, Rocklea, and Bullura, but that's a fantastic sort of district, and that's probably what New South Wales is most well known for. It's porphyry mineralisation, and it's a lot of people would say it is the best porphyry exploration district in Australia, and it's home to that's underpinned by these big major porphyry deposits. most notably in Australia's highest grade or highest gold mine at Cadia Ridgeway, so a big porphyry system up there, greater than 50 million ounces by Newcrest. That sort of really underpins the value in the district. We've got Fontenoy, Ballura and Harden all around our central Cootamundra area. So we're the largest sort of tenement landowner in that region. And what we've got down there is a significant copper and gold anomalism at Fontenoy. So that's a BHMS, again, another system that's about 8 kilometres in strike. We've got the high-grade gold mines at Harden, and that's what we've been drilling a lot since our IPO and getting some fantastic high-grade shallow hits there. And then Ballura, which is really, it's slowly grown to be almost the flagship project in the portfolio, just with its scale, the grade and the potential. And we've seen some fantastic results come out of that. The biggest sort of operating epithermal mine nearby is Cow, which is about 80 k's away, and that's owned by Evolution. And that sits at around 15 million ounces. So it's a district of which, we've got some great porphyry, the exploration targets there really present opportunities to, and those opportunities are realized by other, explorers and miners there. So it's, well proven hunting ground for some big, company making, systems.
Yeah. Also, Chris, while you're there, can you just talk, on if people look in the Cobar Peak is right next to it, and you have some history with them. Can you just talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's it. It's a very good, I guess, introduction as well to how the company started. Cobar was our first tenement that we acquired, and that was back in 2017. And Tom Wall actually worked at the Peak Gold Mines, and then they were taken over by Aurelia Metals. And in that company transition and takeover, they got rid of most of the geology team, which is what happens when in a lot of these situations. And we saw that as an opportunity to peg some ground out there, which was free ground at the time. And that was based off also some new understanding of the mineralization potential at Cobar. And since we pegged that ground out there, we've seen just a huge explosion in other companies pegging ground at Cobar, most notably Sandfire, who have got a significant landowning all across our western boundary. And they're now the largest landowner in Cobar. And that sort of comes off, I guess, the same geological interpretation that we have of the mineralization style and the potential of the district. I think I'll just share that just sort of image there as well, so people can appreciate.
Yes, that's the slide.
And it's a great slide because it, some of those market caps need to be updated with the current sort of share price changes on the market, but it just underpins that value growth that we see in the country when we're nestled amongst these companies that have some significant market caps, and we've got these untested drill targets which we're planning to hit towards the end of this year. Cobar type discovery, which is what Sandfire are chasing. Peel have had great success as well. Manuka are up and running as an operating mine out there. And we've got targets that sit 10 k's from the CSA mine,
right,
which recently sold for 1.1 billion. So it's a fantastic district, and we really have secured a blue chip position in it.
Yeah, and I believe that Manuka is silver. Is that correct? That's their main asset?
Yeah, that's correct. And they're doing a trucking, they operated the Mount Poppy mine. They've got a large silver deposit as well, which they're putting into production through their plant.
Great. Okay, sorry, the screen's just holding there for a second. That's better. We're sorry, everybody. We're having a slight internet issues here. There's a lot of rain coming down in Melbourne right now. Chris, one of the attractions to us about Legacy, though, is you IPO'd last year, but there's a lot more to come. You have a lot of upcoming catalysts over the next calendar year. Can you just talk to us a little bit about that? And then also maybe just getting into, you mentioned earlier about the funding, that you are in a strong funding position.
Yeah, sure. So when we IPO'd with these 5 tenements, we picked up one post the IPO, which was Mulholland. They were at various ranges. So we had some projects that were drill ready, some projects in the development pipeline. So what that has allowed us to do is, drill out our immediate high conviction drill targets, and that's been at the Harden Gold Mine and at Ballura. And we've really seen from the 2 campaigns, with the results to come out for the diamond campaigns, that we're immediately getting high grade, gold, silver, base metal hits in the campaigns that we've done. So we've been, a good successful track record. What we've also been doing in the background is a lot of generative work. So building more targets into that drill ready stage. And so that sort of gives our shareholders, I guess, a continuous growth. So out of our, 5 targets projects that we IPO with, we've only really tested one, which is Hardin. And so there's lots of opportunity, where Ballura, where we drilled, that high grade base metal component of the epithermal represents less than 2% of the mineralized gold footprint at Ballura. So there's just so much opportunity just across that project alone. So that's what, I find really, exciting. That's what I like to present around our projects, is just the incredible depth. And each project you go to, you can almost float another company off, some of these just alone. So there's a lot of work, but so we're certainly excited by it.
And at Ballura, what should investors expect over, call it, the next 12 months there?
Yeah, so Ballura, we're doing a lot of work at the moment, soil campaigns down there. So that's essentially really giving us a better understanding of the overall mineralization style. Ballura has been held by a few different companies over the years, but last really explored, probably by Robust Resources. That was back, several years ago. And Robust didn't do a whole heap of work because they had, some incredible success over in Indonesia with Rembang Island. So it's always been the poor sister to some other significant projects. And before then, the last big player was actually North Limited, and they held the 2 big epithermals in New South Wales, which was Cow and Ballura. And they didn't put a single drill hole into Ballura while they had that success at the Cow mine. What the shareholders should be, looking to see is we're stepping away from Mount Felsted. We're, expanding on our the known mineralization in the system, and really shoring up that, the grade and the scale of the system here. And that's what makes this, just such a fantastic asset in the portfolio. When you look at that anomalous gold zone there, that Tom mentioned, is about 8 square kilometers. You're to put the map of Sydney up there, you can sort of appreciate the scale of that system, that you can walk along and you're getting gold in rock chips up to 40 grams, and up to 900 grams a ton silver. So that's gold, 40 grams gold and 900 grams silver. You compare that to the anomalous gold zone that defined the Cow discovery in the late 80s, early 90s, the 7.5 by 2 kilometer. So you're talking this system, is significantly large. New South Wales also has another Mineral Hill, that's another epithermal nearby that Kingston Resources are really giving a crack at, but also Bowden's 275 million ounces silver equivalent. So Australia's largest and one of the world's largest undeveloped silver deposits. So you only need to look at some of the neighbouring companies and their success to sort of see what we can sort of see. This project giving us that opportunity. And we're planning to drill some of these targets, particularly the vein systems at Strike Northwest. And that'll be our real focus over the next coming months.
Right. So we should have that drilling done, would you say, comfortably between now and calendar year end?
Yeah, between now and calendar end. Yeah. So we'll start to put in the environmental approvals shortly, and that'll give us the on-ground access. We work closely with it's a mixed land use down there as well, so we work closely with the farmers to get rigs on and off the ground. But it's a great in terms of the logistics and the access. It's a fantastic place to be, because all of our projects, this is about 15 minutes out from a large regional town, Cootamundra. So you're close, but you're not on top of the town. We've got a few large landowners, so you're not dealing with lots and lots of different community members. There's no native title risk. There's no, it's all paved roads. So from those sort of future thinking, feasibility and scoping study criteria, we've already ticked those boxes. Even though we're not at that point yet. And really, what we're seeing here gives us confidence around resource potential as well. So that's what we're actively pushing towards. Yeah, no, for sure. And as you said, we like the fact that the funds that you did raise last year, you are putting them into the ground and putting them to work, which is terrific, notwithstanding market conditions. Chris, can you just also talk to us a little bit about your other projects? That, you mentioned the Cobar. Are there any other projects in the portfolio that are really exciting in your opinion? Yeah, so I'll talk a bit about Cobar just before I go to sort of Rocklea, and that's sort of are sort of standing out as our really I guess tenements that we'd like to drill. They're untested. There's an incredible depth in that portfolio they've talked about. And maybe I'll mention it as well around our artificial intelligence exploration alliance a bit separately, because that's a different, opportunity for shareholders.
Yeah.
But it fits in well with the theme that we do have a lot of projects, and we need to be very careful around what we discern to be, the best ones. But that's where I guess it stands out with Legacy as well. The diversity of our ground, just means that we're drilling high conviction drill targets, and we've got the, we're not forced to stay on a single tenement and drill that one out. We can give ourselves the best opportunity across a few different ones. And so Cobar there, that little cross section that's on the bottom left there just sort of shows the thinking around why we picked up that ground. And what we're looking for there is those fluid pathways which are drive these Cobar type deposits. We're a couple kilometres from the Peak Gold Mines, and CSA, as I mentioned, it's one of Australia's highest grade copper mines. And when you lay up, the proximity to the town, we literally have the Cobar Airport on our tenement. So we're very, very close to infrastructure, milling operations. And when you lay that up with an area that we've now defined to be, we've got geochemical anomalism, geophysical anomalism. So that's multiple, late time conductors with, that was found during government co-funded work. So they really present opportunities for these bedrock conductors is what we're searching for there. There's only been 4 drill holes, RC drill holes across that whole tenement that we've got. So that's just wide open for a Cobar type discovery. And we're, slowly building the confidence in it, that these targets, present good opportunities in our portfolio. And coupled with Ballura, this is what we'll be looking to drill at the end of this year as well. So between Ballura and Cobar, we're looking to get 2 more drill campaigns in for the calendar year.
Yeah, I don't know if you're going to have much of a summer at the pace that you're going.
Yeah, well, as soon as you move out of the Sydney Basin, the weather and the rain sort of drops off a lot. So because we have sealed roads to all our projects and the ability to get tracked rigs, straight at the farmers' gates, they're only mobilising a short distance. The logistical operational concerns for us are pretty good. So we have relatively unaffected by those, a lot of the rains and a lot of the other logistical considerations that other explorers have. We're not remote exploration in the boondocks. We're close to towns and infrastructure, and it's easy for us to mobilise as well. So we're sort of fortunate in that regard.
Great. Hey, Chris, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago that big buzzword, artificial intelligence. Do you want to just circle back to that if you don't mind?
Yeah. So we were approached or introduced to a company called Earth AI. So they're an artificial intelligence exploration company. I've just brought up a slide that just sort of shows, a bit of an explanation in terms of what they are. So a traditional geologist or geological approach is exactly what Tom's doing. They're out on the ground, they're looking at the rocks, they're looking at the textures, they're mapping. Artificial intelligence essentially is, it's a machine learning where they're looking at not necessarily replacing geologists, but utilizing large data sets and trying to determine prospectivity of those data sets. We've signed this alliance with Earth AI, and it's a really fantastic agreement because it's a great risk share model that you don't often see in the market. That they are targeting 2 of our projects, Mulholland and Fontenoy. So they're nickel, copper, gold, bit PGEs. So some battery and base metals in there as well. And they've got access to those. They've got their own drill rig. They've vertically integrated their exploration approach, and what they'll be doing is generating targets. They ground truth them and then they drill them. And if they're successful, then they get a royalty over that discovery. So we get the upside to what they're doing, and they get the upside to their potential success. So it will be interesting. We can't wait to sort of see the outcomes of some of the targets and what they do.
Yeah, and Chris, not to digress, but I have to ask the question. There's been so much technology change in mining in the last 25 years. In your opinion, do you think that AI is going to change the face of mining in the next 10 years?
It's hard to say. And the structure of our agreement is almost agnostic to whether it is successful or not, or whether it will have a huge impact. The agreement is such that it's performance based, so it doesn't really matter if they end up injecting traditional geological, groundwork into it to result in a discovery. The Earth AI, the artificial intelligence space, it certainly is being utilised by some other big companies nowadays. You've got your Rio, virtually every company from Oz Minerals to Rio Tinto, BHP, all have a couple slides, will mention around artificial intelligence in their exploration programs. So it's widely used in the industry, and there's a few companies that have listed just off the back of it as well. Have we seen, breakout success yet? I don't believe so, but I certainly feel that as discoveries not necessarily get more difficult, but there's often more challenging, there's bigger data sets, that's where I think that data crunching can certainly help, and it does generate targets of which, are then ground truth. For me, the really interesting part is who gets involved in these artificial intelligence companies. So Earth AI are now San Francisco based.
Right.
There's a lot of tech and venture capital money. They're backed by two of Australia's largest VC funds, Blackbird and Airtree. And, some of the US artificial exploration companies, they're backed by Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. So you get this very interesting sort of tech dynamic in it, which is something that I think that's quite revolutionary in the exploration space. You never would have dreamed that those guys would start to put money into, essentially what is, the mining space.
Yes, and obviously, and Thomas is living it right now. When you have such big swaths of area to cover, the more accurate or the higher probability, I should say, of your targeting, the better you're going to be in the long run.
That's correct. Yeah, and I think that they very much look at the traditional exploration model as having failed. It's failed to supply, meet the demands that the market needs for the decarbonisation and the green future. And they see this as the answer to that, and to increase discovery rates, I guess to also reduce the timeframes to make those discoveries as well. And then they also want to reduce their upside to the ever-rising costs of your nickel, your battery elements as well. So there's a lot of different market and economic mechanisms that are sort of in play in the space.
Got it. Hey, Chris, I'm just conscious of time. You have these big land holdings, you have very nearby neighbors that have had a lot of success. You have a lot of upcoming catalysts. In your mind, do you have any closing remarks before we open it up to Q&A?
Yeah, so I think that in terms of a closing remark around Legacy Minerals, there is a lot of other exploration companies in New South Wales. There's no doubt, and there's no doubt there's a lot that have come out of the recent booms. So in terms of what sort of separates us from, I guess, the rest of the pack, certainly some of the projects that we've built, and we've built them in such a way. It's taken us a couple of years. We've been very discerning when it's private money, when it's your own money, to build up a project portfolio that is made from a balance of geological background, which is Tom, and I didn't really go into my background, which is the project management, mine development sort of aspect. So you're sort of taking a project development, commercial acumen view of a project, and that essentially forms part of our acquisition criteria. So we've ended up with this portfolio of projects that are quite clearly have some world-class potential, discovery potential. So that makes Legacy a standout, with the jurisdiction that they're in. And I think that by having such a depth in our project portfolio as well, we've got a very small market cap relative to the exposure opportunity we've got. We've got a very tight, sticky share register, which is really good. So we've got a really strong following in our share registry, and that's supported us, I guess, through this time frame as well. In terms of the market, we haven't seen the drop off, relative to a lot of other companies as well. And it's that untested potential that's there. We've got the cash, we've got lots of drill targets. We're focused, and I probably never emphasized it, on shallow, high grade systems. So we're not looking, deep undercover. We're not on an undercover exploration journey where, we're drilling targets that might be at a 300-meter depth. We're drilling targets that are at surface, mineralized at surface. We've got the systems that strike, for Ks at surface. So that is cheap. It's affordable for a small exploration company, and that's where we can really deliver a lot of bang for buck. And so that's where we talk about a discovery journey. And Legacy's discovery journey is hopefully quite a short one. It's not a long drawn out porphyry program. It's cheap, shallow, high grade, high impact.
Got it. Okay, everybody, we'll open it up for questions now. And as always, if you're a little bit shy, you can just WhatsApp me. That's okay. Chris, somebody has already sent me a message on the grades. The question is, what makes you confident that you will have high grades? Are there any other projects around that do have high grades?
Yeah, so it's probably I'll talk about Ballura. We've got confidence because we've drilled it essentially. We've also released some fantastic metallurgy results on that project as well. So some of the grades from the drilling that we recently did, went up to 440 grams silver. We're talking 30% lead plus zinc, 8 grams gold, and all shallow. So we're seeing, we know the grades are there, this shallow high grade system. Historically, some of the assays from the mine face, went up to almost 4,000 grams per ton silver, and you're talking over 50% lead plus zinc. So the grades are evidenced in the rock chips and evidenced in production. In terms of nearby high grade mines, epithermals are not really known for being high grade base metals like this. They're known more for your gold, silver, large, I guess, footprints. And that's more what Cal is, the 15 million ounce. It's at a good grade, but it's not, the system that we've been drilling is a particularly high grade sort of shoot in what is a very large or part of the system.
Right. And I guess adding to that, because you're shallow, does that take down future cost of production?
I definitely, when you can walk along and you can see the mineralized body at surface. We're very encouraged by that, and that's often how a lot of these develop into projects, is that there'll be a shallow open pit, and that's what Cal operates as well, and then it transitions to an underground sort of operation. So yeah, we're very conscious around what the future opportunities look like there, but certainly by having shallow high grade systems, it adds a lot of weight to the project ranking. Got it.
Chris, someone else is asking me a question, and I don't know if you can answer this precisely, but the balance sheet, how is it for the rest of the year for all the drilling?
Yeah, so that is a good question. We haven't published our quarterly yet, so I'll have to refer to the last one.
Yes.
Which had, I think, 3.6 million in the bank. So we're a pretty small company in terms of our overheads and expenditure. We don't operate a corporate office. We operate a field office. We own most of our equipment that we use by the drilling rigs. And so that 3.6 gets us multiple drill campaigns across what we're particularly targeting, Ballura and Cobar, and that'll give us some good share price catalysts. We will be looking towards the end of early next year, to potentially move into a capital raise, based off some of the results or outcomes from those drill campaigns. And that sort of, we always look to do that if the bank balance, to keep a healthy bank balance. But yeah, so at this point, there's plenty of upside exposure without, by getting involved on market currently.
Okay. Another question I'm getting, and it's an opinion as much as anything. Do you prefer gold or copper at this point for the portfolio, for the legacy portfolio?
Yeah, it is a bit of an.
It's like asking which child do you like the best, I suppose. But.
Yeah. I like copper. My background is actually an electrical engineer, and it was part of the reason why that we started Legacy, is that we saw a huge opportunity in New South Wales in lots of ground that was free, that was very prospective, but also a huge demand for these types of mineral systems. So while gold is, we've had good success in drilling out the gold system, and that's, Ballura is not a copper. There is copper, but it's not a copper play. That's a gold silver type project. But I'm certainly excited around our, I didn't go into detail, our porphyry target at Rockley, which is targeting, predominantly copper out there. So I sort of think that growth there for copper will just be insatiable for the next decade.
Got it. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, we're just finishing up on about 1 o'clock here Eastern time. Thank you very much. And everybody, if you do have further questions, don't hesitate to send them through. I'm sure Chris or Thomas would be happy to answer them. Chris, thank you so much for your time. Thomas, good luck out there.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having us on today.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching another episode of 180 Markets Off the Charts. If you want access to thousands of capital raises, sign up at 180markets.com.au and you'll get access to our very next capital raise. Thanks for watching.